one, go.
Good afternoon and welcome back to the iProperty Radio Studio Live at the National Construction Summit 2025. We are at the very tail end of day two, so you will start to hear the deconstructing noise of the exhibition area around us. And our final guest today is David McNamara, CommSec cybersecurity founder. David, you're very welcome and thank you for joining me today. I'm not sure how much people would expect to be hearing about cybersecurity at a National Construction Summit, but it's incredibly important.
No,
Why?
Well, absolutely, because if what's happening with the construction industry at the moment, it's going more digital. So you have your BIM, your HVAC, your Internet of Things, devices that are deployed into infrastructure to manage and control environments. So they're all at risk because the security element of them is probably an afterthought for a lot of organizations because they just want the features and functionality to get it to do what they want it to do.
Yeah.
So in terms of security and having access to those devices, be it through the internet or somebody plugging directly into them, that with inadequate firmware, access control systems, fire suppression systems. So all of these can be controlled by a building management system. And we've done penetration tests into building management systems that are connected to the internet. And there's serious gaps in the configuration of them, but also the security and the access control into the building management systems themselves. So sometimes it's left open. So they might have a third-party provider coming in to, change a setting on it, fix a lift, whatever it might be, and buildings can be held to ransom just as well as your IT infrastructure in your own organization.
I think the whole concept of a building being held to ransom, for many people, that won't be a natural thought because they're maybe not understanding our move over the past decades towards mechanical breathing, towards digitized access control. So in the same way that we've been promoting and pushing and advocating for smart buildings, sometimes maybe people don't think about what that means. So a smart building is a connected building.
Yes.
And when things are connected, I presume the increased number of connectivity means increased and points of connectivity, whether it's through IoT devices, are increased points of vulnerability.
Absolutely.
Is it as simple as that?
It is simple
as simple
that.
and as complicated as that.
Yes, but then also if you've got third parties that have access into that, and you've got temps coming in, you've got contractors that are just in to do a particular job, get access, and controlling that access into those systems isn't often restricted or redacted once that person has left the site or whatever it might be. So, and even if there are third parties, that the education of them in terms of cybersecurity controls is lacking because they're not educated in proper security hygiene. Don't click on links. Enable multi-factor authentication, encrypt your data where possible. So they're all the standard things you do in your own IT infrastructure, but it's more important now that because IoT and firmwares updates are done on IoT, they're left open and they're not patched. So they're vulnerabilities that are prevalent within the industry.
Part of your presence here today at the National Construction Summit is to raise awareness around the potential risks and potential risks for the construction industry, not just across general real estate. You shared some pretty scary statistics with us. What's the latest data?
So in 2024, the last quarter of 2024, ransomware attacks on construction industry rose by 44%. Now, in the entire year, the number of attacks that rose was 107%. So that's
and this is
colossal.
Just against the construction industry globally.
Just the construction industry globally, yes. So it is so important. They are vulnerable. We don't think of it right. We want to put up a building. We want to put in a building management system. We want to have all those lovely things going in that
and we want everything to talk to each other.
And talk to each other. So when you put all that in place, particularly with a BIM, it's a collaborative way, but it's also an area where third parties can get in, may not have done proper security hygiene themselves, have access in. Once they're breached, you can move laterally right throughout the building and shut down different systems, fire suppression systems, heating control systems, lifts. So all of the things that would go into managing a building. So, and we see that on a regular basis. I think, as I mentioned to you earlier, we did pen tests into a building management system, and the huge vulnerabilities that we found in that was connected to the internet. Third parties were connecting into it. There wasn't proper access control. Some of the access was old, but people still had access who had left, gone. So all of these things you need to consider when putting in place proper security around building management.
Looking at, and the stats you shared are definitely terrifying, and they're global stats for the construction industry. Do you have any sense of where the Irish construction industry, in terms of its approach to security and investing in cybersecurity? Because we know that investment in digital and decarbonisation are the goals of the construction industry. So, are we actually keeping pace when we're moving towards digitalisation? Are we keeping pace for cybersecurity?
No would be the short answer. And
do we fare badly on a global scale?
On a global scale, you're probably on a par with the rest of the industry, but it's the industry in general has never really considered cybersecurity to be a threat to them. So, but there are directives that have come out now from the European Union called NIS2 or NIS2. And what that does, it puts the onus on not just on IT, but it puts it on the board of organizations to actually adopt proper cybersecurity hygiene and practices. And with that directive, there's fines, just like GDPR came in 2018.
Yeah.
There now, if you're an essential entity, which is an entity that deals with national infrastructure, so if, say, into Irish Water or into ESB or any of those large organizations that would be considered essential, and you're a third-party supplier or you're doing building works for them, you'll see security questionnaires now coming out from them to see how good is your cybersecurity against the NIS2 directive. And the fines associated with that are, if you're over 250 employees with a turnover of over 50 million, it's 10 million in terms of a fine, or 2% of your global revenue, whichever is higher. So with that in mind, third-party suppliers are also on the hook for that directive, because third-party supply chain risk is a big part of this too. So there's a knock-on effect, even down to SME level.
Yeah.
So if you're starting out in the construction industry, you have to have nearly the same controls as an essential entity.
So with the scale of the fines, there needs to be an investment.
Yes.
To ensure this. Is that happening at the moment?
It's starting to slowly happen, but it's the awareness about the directive that isn't widely known, that we've found even in the industry. Enterprise Ireland, if you're an Enterprise Ireland client, they have a grant to do a cyber assessment. That's followed by an NCSC grant, National Cyber Security Centre, of €60,000. So they're out at the moment. The NCSC latest round just closed last week, but I'd imagine that would open up again. So, there's supports there from government as well to help you as an entity improve your cybersecurity posture. Because not only is it fines, the board can be held accountable, named and shamed, and stop doing their managerial function. So you can be actually...
The consequences are real. David, I think that you've done a great job today in raising awareness. I think I don't think that the industry consciously wasn't focusing on it, but maybe didn't. Well, they, as an industry, maybe not as aware as we ought to have been. And possibly a part of that is when we see new software providers coming into the market, they tend to present the safety features of theirs and the safety protocols of theirs, not take into consideration the industry integrations.
Yes.
So I think that's something that you've done a great job today in. How can people get in contact with you directly?
So get in contact with me directly. Our website is CommSec.ie, COMMSEC, or email me directly, david.mcnamara@commsec2ms.ie.
Super. Thank you so much, Dave. And apologies for the noise going on. As mentioned, we're at the very tail end of day 2 here at the National Construction Summit in Blanchardstown. And what we're hearing around us is the deconstructing of all the exhibitor stands. It's been a super 2 days. Even though you might have terrified some of the industry, David, it was probably a wake-up call that they needed. So we very much welcome it. And so we would urge anybody that is concerned about cybersecurity to indeed contact David McNamara and the team at CommSec Cybersecurity. And that's it from us from iProperty Radio Live at the National Construction Summit. Until next year. Thank you.